Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
In this episode, we catch up with our team from Handbid, Jeff, Carrie, and Elise, as they discuss the planning of their own annual fundraising event that benefits Prader-Willi Syndrome Association of Colorado. They have been organizing this event for 16 years and have some great insights into planning a great and successful fundraiser.
All right, welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast. We talk about all the various ways you can make your next fundraising event better, and we're diving back into the Derby. Mm-hmm. So we got Elise and Carrie here. Ladies, thanks for joining me in the conversation here. We're going to talk about a fundraiser that's obviously near and dear to our heart. It's one that, before it was a fundraiser, it was a party at the Porter's house. So
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So it became a fundraiser. We talked about kind of the history around that and, kind of not only where it came, but kind of how it evolved over the years. And, then we started talking about kind of the early planning stages, and that was around budget and approvals and whatnot, and then the beginnings of the whole ticket process. And, we're here to kind of give you guys an update on where we're at, and we're about 70 days out from our event, and that probably times this podcast, but you'll kind of see like where are we at, what are we doing, kind of what's next on the agenda as we kind of get through this. Now, we do have the benefit of having done this 16 times before, so we kind of understand how the event runs, and we make little changes here or there. I mean, obviously you want to keep it fresh in certain ways, but this one's going to feel a little fresh to us, I think, just because we didn't do it last year, because we did Country for a Cure.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that was a nice experiment into, should we turn this into a fundraising concert? And we won't. That's a whole nother podcast about what can go wrong at your event. I think we've shared that in the past. So anyway, let's dive in. Let's do a quick update on kind of where we're at, and then we'll talk about, kind of where we're going over the next 70 days, kind of what's on the list left to do. Does that sound good? Because you should at this point have most, if not all, of your vendor agreements nailed down.
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good on that.
Yeah, we're straggling a little bit with the caterer, but we always tend to. But everything else is good. I mean, we have the sound contract is done. The AV, which is not related to sound, by the way, it's our giant LED video screen. That contract is done.
Entertainment.
Both entertainment contracts are signed. Our event planner's on board and super excited.
Venue.
Venue.
The venues, yes, that's kind of where you should start. Wouldn't that be fun if we're like, hey, where do you want to do the Derby this year? We're 70 days out from it.
We've had some people come to us at Handbid and say they need a venue.
Yes. And
or they've lost their
something's
venue.
happened.
A lot of times it's
Yes.
because the venue double books. I mean, that's just tragic. But anyway, so we've got most of those contracts in place. I think we're in good shape there. And we are in full-on sales mode.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that, and auction items. Don't forget the auction items.
Never forget the auction items. So, yes, the team is out there with their donation letters, canvassing the area, begging for donations. So, we'll start to see those come in droves here over the next couple of weeks. So, it's tricky because sometimes you got to start early in the year. And we have with certain clients or certain vendors that we know have limited, I would say, items that they give out just to make sure we get in that list. You got to be in that Q1 list sometimes. So if you have a Q3 or Q4 event and people are always telling you every year they run out, it's just a reminder for next year to ask earlier. For sure. So let's talk about the auction first, and then we can kind of get into some of the other things, especially ticket prices and stuff. But so how are we going out and getting these items? What's the plan?
Well, I think anymore a lot of stuff is online. And so, we have a letter, I think that's usually the first place to start. Or if you really frequent places or have a connection to somebody, I think that's another great place to start.
So this is where Carrie Porter has a gigantic wad of these letters in her car, and everywhere she goes around town, she drops one off, right?
Yeah, I do. And that used to be very successful. I'd say I've noticed recently a lot of times they just want to send them all to one person to look, and the person that's at the store or there usually will just take the information, but then there's still a follow-up call. So
there's a little bit of a sales effort.
There's a little bit there, but it depends on the place and the organization, and it never hurts to be in person and make the first impression. But yes, the follow-up is key.
Yeah, especially when we have a rare disorder we do, right? And so there's a lot of explaining that has to happen, unless they happen to know my daughter, and half of Denver knows my daughter. Good or bad, they do. And that can help. But, I remember even when I was doing this and helping, my son deal with the football team, the high school football team, that's easier. Like, hey, we're raising money for Thunder Ridge High School football. Like, oh, we know that, and we're a local business in the community, and, and I'll put your football helmet in my, establishment showing I'm a supporter or whatever. So anyway, those are a little easier, but this, rare disease is hard.
Yep.
And so for everybody out there who's raising money, I think your cause and how much people relate to it is obviously always a challenge.
Yeah.
It could be really easy. You could be raising money for firefighters. Right. That should be easy, at least I would imagine. First responders should be easy. Everybody should love them.
Yeah, it's definitely easier.
Well, I know. You're married to one, so you're like, sometimes I love them and sometimes I don't. I know that look. But anyway, okay, so the auction items, we're going to start. What do? We took last year's list. We go through it. Mm-hmm. We say, that's another good one to get. Or
we always look at, what sold well, which, is trips, alcohol.
Well, it depends on your audience.
But in our audience, those tend to, always be big sellers. So if something was a good seller, we try and go back and get it. Or, if people have connections for something unique or different, those are also always hot topics that we try and go back and get. And some new stuff, again, since we've taken a break here, we're kind of starting over, but a lot of times, new, exciting events or places, hotels, things to do. It's good
well,
to
and one
try
thing, that we've done throughout the last, I'd say 6 or 9 months as we've been at various events around town is you see what people have in their auction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it not only tells you what's popular, but it shows you also what businesses are willing
donating.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Who's donating, because it could change.
Yep, exactly. So, So we still have a ways to go, but... It always manages to come together. So
always manage to come together. The bigger thing for us, let's shift over then real quick. As we're out soliciting auction items, let's talk about ticket sales. Mm-hmm. And I think we had a good conversation in our last meeting about this as a committee. And what's interesting, because we've had new people come onto the committee, and again, we have to be really careful because we've done this for 16 years. And so sometimes maybe we get stuck in our ways, and it's nice to have somebody new come in and kind of suggest something different. And other times we don't do certain things just because we've just learned they don't work. Mm-hmm. Right. And we don't want to come across as like, oh, it just doesn't work. But really the other person, the new committee member's thinking like, oh, they're just stubborn. Okay, so let's dive into this because we did have a good conversation about this, and this is where we set ticket prices specifically, where we set the low end ticket price to get into the event, and we started at $250 a ticket, and there was some concern that was too high.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we had some people chime in and said, "Hey, so because this is an event that is, supporting Prader-Willi syndrome and families that are impacted by Prader-Willi syndrome, we should let those families in for a significantly reduced price."
Yep.
And I think generally we agree, okay? But this begs the question, again, if you have a limited room, so say you're doing a gala event and you've got
300.
Yeah. Let's just say 30 tables of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's how my brain works. Like I can do that kind of math in my head. So 30 tables at 10, do you want to fill some of those tables with your supporters or the people you support? And sometimes they can be both.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But, we've been to events, and I know you have as well, and you're on the board of some of these where you're putting people in that room that, you're honoring.
Yes.
Because you're supporting them.
Yes.
But they're not going to spend any money. They couldn't afford to come. There was no way they were spending $2,000 or $2,500 on a table.
That's why we're raising money for them.
Right.
For their families.
Well, I think though sometimes.
Do they come or not?
Well, I think it's
delicate.
Yeah. But I do think sometimes the people that are supporting you do like to see and meet who they are supporting as well.
Sure.
So I think there is some value to have some of those families or, in our case, depending on the age, kids, whatever you want there. But the other, flip side of that is, again, like oftentimes they don't, you're then spending money for them to come. And once they come, they are not
typically
often. Some, it's not everyone, but I'm just saying if you offer the reduced price, they usually are not going to spend a lot more when they get there.
I think you need to figure out, okay, what's the core number of tables that I have to reserve for my donors, my big supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then can I fill in the room with the people I support? Because I do think it's beneficial for them to be there. I think
agree.
everybody agrees with that.
I agree.
It's just that when you have limited space, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
It's more subsidizing with those other or filling those empty spots. Right.
And trust me, we know, right? We go to events where they calculate revenue per table and the bottom 20% every year get booted.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not raising enough money. I mean, some of these events have gotten that sophisticated and that good with we are here to maximize every dollar in every seat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, remember we used to work with Lynn at the barn and Lynn was always anti-kids because her point is kids don't raise their paddle.
Right.
All they do is raise their fork to their mouth and eat the food, but they're not really there to make any money.
Mm-hmm.
And sounds insensitive, but I get her point, and she ran a venue that had very limited space.
Right.
And so if I can only fit 100 people in there, I want 100 people in there that are all giving money. And so there's no easy answer to this.
No, there's not.
Although we had a long conversation about it. And the irony is I felt like that was probably the 12th or 13th long conversation.
Well,
Over
it comes
13
up
years
every
we've
year.
had, it comes up every year.
And it's also, people want, it is a fun event. I think people want to come and they also want, so it's, it's not just I want to have other families come, but sometimes people want to bring friends or want friends to experience and they don't necessarily feel they have the means to spend that much money, right? So, that's the other part of it. But I think you should talk a little bit about our pages. So we have tried to make an avenue for people that can't afford it but still want to come to do a peer-to-peer fundraising page. And
we have a peer-to-peer that's connected to the gala auction event.
Mm-hmm.
And we encourage people to raise money through that, and we reward them with
admission. Yeah. So
and sometimes very generous admission. I mean, we've had people that have gone on there and they're like, I can't afford a $250 ticket, and then they go on and they raise like $2,500 on their page.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh, well, we're happy to put you into the event if you're going to raise $2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of those. We had one family who literally got, I think close to $2,000, and a majority of them were $10, $20, $30, maybe a few $100s, but just a lot of little donations that added up. And
we're all over that.
So I think that that's another way I think that you can get some of your supporters or people that really like the cause but maybe can't afford it. They can create a page or raise money or find a different way.
So that's a good way. So let's kind of summarize this for folks. For your people you support, if you feel like you want to bring them to your event, but you also realize they're not going to be able to pay what you're hoping to sell your tables for, well, maybe they could pay. And maybe it's not a table, maybe it is. But either way, give them some milestones or some bars to cross through a peer-to-peer or just through a campaign that says, hey, guess what? If this table is $2,500. If you raise $4,000, $5,000 online, whatever number you come up with, we'll give you that $2,500 table.
Yeah.
And in that case, you have additional spots where you can bring people and bring the awareness, and their costs are covered.
Yep. I think it's a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's talk about the other part. So let's talk about the low end of the ticket pricing that isn't related to the people that you support. It's just, where do you set the low end? And again, this comes up in our event every year. And we have experimented with this, and we have some data, and then we just have a lot of opinions. Okay? So what should be the cheapest ticket price to get into our event? And so the question we always ask ourselves is, it's a derby event. Would we rather have 1,000 people there that all paid $100, okay, or maybe even less? Or would we rather have 300 people there? So we'd rather have 300 people there that all paid, let's just say 500 each.
Right.
Or 400 each. And there's not an easy answer to that question. I guess it depends on what kind of event you want. What we've experienced in the past is when we lowered the ticket price considerably down, we found we attracted a lot of people that paid the base ticket price, ate the food, drank the drinks, okay? That's a good little tongue twister. So they ate, they drank, they didn't spend a dime. They didn't bid in the auction, they didn't donate, they didn't buy drawing tickets, they did nothing else. They were there for a derby event. Yeah. And so I think if you decide you want to go that route, I think you need to expect that you're going to have a good base of those people that are like that.
Well, and your ticket price better at least cover
all of that,
all of your costs. And so I think that's something with our event too. We don't, obviously food is usually always included, but we also include all the alcohol.
Right.
And so, that it's a little hard to make it too cheap, or you end up losing money on those people.
You make it too cheap, you attract, like in our case, one year, we even advertised in a local newspaper, a very popular local newspaper. We put advertisements in there, and we attracted definitely a lot of people, very young.
The party goers.
Who were all passed out in the bathroom at the end of the night and didn't donate any money. And so it looked like an amazing party because we had all these people there, but they weren't really there for the fundraiser. They were there for the mint juleps
food and booze.
And the race. And gosh, they didn't even bet in the race. And that's kind of a fun little thing that we have.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit with Prada Willie dollars. Have we talked about that before?
Right. So then, so at the low end, I think our summary is you got to be a little careful, like what type of person do you think is going to want that ticket? And so so this kind of ties into our fake money that we have. If you do get them in there, how do you incentivize them to do something besides just eat and drink?
Right. Participate in the event.
Right. So what we tend to do and what we decided to do last night is we're not selling a $100 ticket. We're just not. Okay. We're going to sell a $200 ticket. We lowered it from $250 to $200, but we're going to give them what we call Prada Willie dollars. Now, why do we have fake money? You want to explain it? Yeah.
Well, this kind of goes quite a ways back, but we wanted to be able to let people bet on the horse race, and just with local, gambling laws and different things like that, you have to kind of get a little creative there. So we actually print money. It looks like money, and we put different kids' faces on them and called them Prada Willie dollars. And so it's fake money. You can use it in the auction. You can use it, if to buy. We usually have cups and things like that, but you have to use it for the horse races. And then you get paid back in Prada Willie money. So, I think with the Derby, everyone's like, oh, can we bet? We want to bet. And so what we've done is just allowed you to bet and have this fake money then that really is used for anything at the venue. But
the money is worthless when you walk out the door.
But when you walk out the door, you're done. So
And you can't bring it back next year if you don't spend it.
yeah, we had that problem, so we had to print new every year. But the one thing about that, it does inflate our auction a little bit in some respects, because if you're the big winner and you have lots of money.
The big winner in the race.
In the race, yes. So if you bet a little bit, end up with...
And that all depends on the odds, and we can cover that in a second. But just assume you win a lot of money in the race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then,
you're winning Prada Willie dollars.
Right, but you're now willing, I have this money that's useless when I leave. So if you want something in the auction...
Go bid on it.
You might bid it up way higher than you would have. Now, that sometimes if somebody else really wants it and maybe they don't have as much Prada Willie money, they might still be willing to, go along with
higher,
you. So,
yeah.
I mean, it can inflate prices, but I think it also can.
But we're taking a $100
money.
ticket, we're moving it to a $200 ticket. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get another 100 out of them, but we're going to give them 30 or so Prada
25, yeah.
25 Prada Willie dollars. Okay?
Yeah.
So the thing is that a Prada Willie dollar at the end of the day isn't necessarily worth $1. Okay? The day after the event, it's worth nothing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
At the event, it's worth something, but that something really, it doesn't guarantee you winning anything with it. You can't do it. You can't buy drinks with it. You can't buy food with it. You can only use it to lower your bill at the end of the night on the money you go spend.
Yep, exactly. Now, I think, Elise, why don't, because you mentioned, though, there was another that I had never thought of, but you mentioned the first time you guys came that having that money and just having something incentivize you to
Go spend it.
Get in the auction.
It did. It was my first real fundraising event, and I came because I know your daughter, and she's near and dear to my heart, and you were like, you should come. Okay, great. We did, and I would not have done anything. I was intimidated by it initially. I'd never seen anything quite like this. And I think it was Nate. He was there at the betting booth, or maybe it was Seth. I don't remember. But they're like, this is how this works. And just give us your Prada Willie dollars and pick some things. I'm like, okay, great. I'll pick these things. I have no idea what I'm doing.
They were called horses. They're not things.
Okay, well, at the time, they were things.
These are $1 million machines.
Now I do all my research before I bet. In the end, I mean, we didn't win a ton, but I was like, oh, I have all this money. What's this silent auction thing about? And it did. It encouraged me to participate and then get involved in other aspects of it. We walked away spending a few $100s, and I didn't walk in there thinking, I'm going to go give money today. Mm-hmm. But I did.
Well, and I think also, sometimes you have the issue of how do you get people engaged in the silent auction, especially at a big venue when maybe the items aren't like right there in your face.
Right.
So I think having this extra money that you have to do something with, or you have the option to do something with, gets people engaged in the
100%.
auction.
So we talked
one
about...
of the things, though, that really helps with that, too, is the fact that, in our case, the Derby ends at 5 o'clock. Well, the auction...
The race does. Not our party, by the way.
Oh, yes.
We party all night.
So the race ends at 5 o'clock, and then you have, hours left, 3 hours. And that's really when that silent auction starts going, because I'm like, oh, now I got all this money.
The band kicks in, you're on your phones, you're bidding.
Yeah.
You have all this money.
So the timing is really helpful.
Right. And and this is a sad story, and Elise brought it up, and I just want to mention it because, I mean, as you're thinking about fake money, it is true. Like we loved this design that we made, and we just reused it every year. And then finally, I was like, I know some of our guests, some of our most esteemed guests, are bringing that money back that they didn't spend the year before. We needed. So one year we changed it. We didn't tell anybody. We told no one, and we changed it up. And I want to say, you guys, we made like $30,000.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It was significant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we change it every year now.
Yeah.
We change it every year. But as awesome as your supporters are, they are sometimes also cheating on you.
That might be a good auction item, actually. Let's frame all the past monies we have.
Oh, yeah. That would be
that's
a
cool.
one. Yeah.
Do something with that.
Our glasses are collector's items. We have people all the time asking us for one that they broke out of a year's collection or whatever. And we've done Derby stuff like that before. But those are all fun silent. If you have an event that's had a long tradition and you've got swag from years, it's kind of fun to put bundles together of that stuff. People like it. But okay, so we have the $100 ticket, and then we're going to give them $25, and then we said
the $200 ticket.
Sorry,
Yes,
you're right.
$200,
We
yeah.
turned it to a $200 ticket with
Yeah.
$25, and then we decided to make a couples ticket.
Yep.
Okay, what's the couples ticket going to be at?
600.
No, the couples is $375.
$375.
$375.
But you get 50
$50. There you
Yeah.
go. Okay, and then we added a
Foursome.
Four-pack.
Four-pack. It's not a golf tournament. We don't have foursomes.
4-pack.
Well,
It's really a ticket of 4.
yeah.
The 4-pack idea was to say we're trying to get people to encourage inviting
Friends.
somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, look, we know this, right? Tables of 8 and 10, they're tough. Like when I buy a table of 8, I don't fill it for months if I buy an event because I don't know who's coming. Like that's a lot of people to invite. I got to invite 6 other people, assuming my wife wants to even come with me. So, and 6 is a lot easier. Right. And we saw when we did our fire pit tables of 6 the
We
first year.
changed it. Yeah.
Well, they were.
Oh,
we raised the price.
We
for
raised
sure,
the price, but
'cause
that
they
year
went-
we sold the 6-pack fire pit tables, and we still have them, by the way. People bought them up right away
instantly. I mean,
because
they
they're
were
like
gone
3
within 2
couples.
weeks.
I could get 3 couples. I get 3 couples, not a problem, right? Well, the 4-pack I think is going to be. My guess is outside of obviously the table sales is going to be our number one selling item over the single and the couples.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you get a better deal. So what are we giving them in a 4-pack?
We're going to give them. It's going to be $600, so
Yeah.
it comes down to $150 a person,
Yep.
and everyone still gets the 25 Prada Willie dollars. So, so really, you're
Each person in the 4-pack.
each person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
you'll-
really, your ticket price is $125.
$125 if you spend your money.
if you spend your money. Yep. So, and I think go back to why we did that is we're like, should we offer an incentive for someone to bring a friend or bring somebody new? And we've done that in the past, and while that's a great, I think that's a great incentive, but it gets a little harder to track. And then if you do, coupon codes, how do you know they're new or who's going to use them? It just logistically gets a little bit harder. But then, so for the 4-pack, our thought was, well, if I want to bring a couple or I want to bring friends, I could just split it, say, hey, let's go in together. And so I think we'll see how it works.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
think we're going to always do the early bird. It doesn't tend to be too popular, but
yeah, and I think that there's 2 ways to do early bird. You either give a discount code and people see the original price and put their code in. I actually like better having 2 tickets, having one start and stop early.
I do too.
Because then they just see that price and they're not having to remember a code. I just think that you got to make sure they really understand these prices are going up on like April 15th or whatever it is.
right. Yep.
And just, look, I know everybody wants to get people there to their event, whatever it is. You have to trade that off with making sure you're making enough money as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So what else?
Well,
We're
I
going to wrap
think
this
then-
one up. This has been a good one.
Yeah, so I do think the incentives then, and obviously with our tables, because they're a higher per person price, we're going to add a little more so that you do
More
feel
value.
like you're
Yeah,
getting
we have a
more.
$5,000 fire pit circular couch table that seats 8. We sold out of them last year for Country for a Cure. We're hoping to do that again. That's a great sponsorship type thing. We gave them a personal server last year, which they loved, so they didn't have to, because this is an outdoor venue, so they didn't want to have to keep running back to the food line and the drink line.
Bar and yeah.
Right. And those servers had private access to the bars and stuff, so they didn't have to wait in line. And this year we're giving them parking.
Yeah,
Yep.
So that's going to be exciting.
yep.
So I see Lori nodding her head. Lori's going to go after that $5,000 table. That should be good. Okay. Well, we may have another one of these. We'll see. I mean, like I said, things are moving along. We have some remaining things to negotiate with the caterer. But the menu looked amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I want to point out one thing that we didn't do that we always used to do in the past when we worked with other caterers is we would have a tasting.
Yes.
Okay. And I will tell you, like, when I first went to the tasting, because I was actually, me and another male board member kept saying to ourselves, why do we, we're never crazy about the appetizers or the food? Like, And then Carrie's like, well, you should come to the tasting, because at the tasting, this is where we pick it all out. Well, that's where my eyes got opened up to why all of the food is the way it is because my wife and her sister were picking out the entire menu. So there's not going to be goat cheese. There's not going to be all this other amazing stuff you want. And so Gary and I go, and this is like a 5-course meal when we go to this thing. And they're serving drinks. This is lunch. I'm like, I don't think I should be drinking at lunch, but they're serving cocktails. They're serving the 5-course meal. The chef is whisking out, we have this menu and we're going to try this. And I look over at Gary. I'm like, this thing is fantastic. We are turning this into an auction item. So we did turn it into be on the tasting committee for the following year's Derby event.
Yep.
And
It was
so
one of the hottest sellers.
and I think we bring it back. I think what we need to do is tell Brandon.
Talk to Brandon.
Okay. Hey, Brandon, next year you got to do a tasting.
Yeah, we could talk
Okay.
to him about it and see if he does that.
You got to do a Derby tasting, and you're going to bring us, we can do it at someone's house. It doesn't have to be that fancy, but we're going to turn this into a formal event, and then I think we sell 2 spots at the tasting committee. What do you think?
Yeah,
I think
we
it's a
could
great
talk to him
idea.
about it. Yeah, we can talk to him.
That's the fun stuff. All right, so we got couple other things we got to figure out, videos and AV and MCs and stuff, but that's all kind of working on in heavy promotion.
Yep.
Yep.
Ticket
And
sales.
sell
Ticket
those
sales and
sponsors.
auction items.
All right, well, wish
And
us luck.
sponsors.
Yes.
Oh,
And
sponsors.
sponsorships.
Absolutely.
Wish us luck, you guys. Anyway, this has been a pleasure talking about this event with you, and until next time, happy fundraising.
A special thank you to Jeff, Carrie, and Elise for your willingness to share about the Derby event. We hope you got some great ideas for your next event. If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.